Have you ever looked at the skyrocketing prices of fresh fruit in the grocery store and thought, there has to be a better way? What if I told you that you could grow an endless supply of sweet, juicy, organic fruit right at home, even if you do not have a single inch of yard space? That is right. In this video, we are going to completely flip everything you thought you knew about gardening. We will reveal 12 incredible fruit trees and bushes that absolutely thrive in pots, containers, and microscopic spaces. I am going to promise you this: by the end of this video, you will have the exact blueprint to turn your boring balcony, patio, or sunny windowsill into a massive food-producing oasis. Here is the big secret the agricultural industry does not want you to realize. Plants do not care if they are in the ground. They only care about their roots. So, are you ready to stop overpaying for watery, flavorless supermarket fruit and start harvesting your own? Let me know in the comments right now. Do you think it is actually possible to grow an apple tree on an apartment balcony? Before we dive into our incredible list of 12 fruits, we need a little bit of history. The idea of growing massive fruit trees in tiny boxes is not a new internet trend. It actually dates back hundreds of years to the grand palaces of Europe. Kings and queens wanted fresh citrus in the dead of cold winters, so they built magnificent glass orangeries and grew lemon and orange trees in massive wooden boxes that they wheeled indoors. They proved that with the right container, you can control the climate and the harvest. Today, botanical science has taken this to a whole new level. Through incredible selective breeding, horticulturists have developed dwarf rootstocks. These are special root systems that tell the top part of the tree to stay small and compact, while still producing full-sized, normal fruit. This means the power of a giant orchard has finally been unlocked for the everyday urban dweller. You just need to understand the basic rules of container life, and you are ready to grow. Let us start with the absolute classics, the bright and cheerful citrus trees, specifically lemons and limes. Many people believe the myth that you can only grow these if you live in tropical places like Florida or sunny Spain. But that is completely false. You can grow a Maya lemon tree right in your living room or on a tiny urban balcony. The Maya lemon is actually a cross between a traditional lemon and a mandarin orange, making it sweeter and perfectly suited for container life. Picture this. You wake up on a chilly morning, walk over to your sunny window and pluck a bright yellow, fragrant lemon right off your own indoor tree for your morning tea. It is a completely surreal and amazing experience. These trees love sunlight and well-draining soil. If you live in a cold climate, you simply leave the pot outside during the warm summer months to soak up the rays and then roll it inside when the frost approaches. The key here is not letting the roots sit in water, so a pot with excellent drainage holes is your best friend. Imagine never having to buy those little plastic bags of hard, flavourless lemons from the grocery store ever again. Your little potted tree will provide beautiful, sweet-smelling blossoms in the spring and juicy fruits almost all year round. Next up, let us talk about a fruit that is almost universally loved, the sweet and juicy strawberry. Now, you might be thinking of massive, sprawling strawberry fields that take up acres of land. Let us go ahead and debunk that myth right now. Strawberries are actually one of the absolute easiest fruits to grow in extremely tight spaces. They do not need deep roots, which means they are the perfect candidates for shallow pots, window boxes, or even hanging baskets. Imagine having a hanging basket on your front porch, but instead of just regular flowers, beautiful ruby red strawberries are cascading down the sides, waiting to be eaten. It is both gorgeous and delicious. For the best results in a small space, you will want to choose what are called ever-bearing varieties. Unlike traditional types that give you one big harvest and then quit, ever-bearing strawberries will produce smaller amounts of fruit continuously from early summer all the way into the fall. You just need to make sure they get about 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight a day. And here is a fun trick. If you plant them in a tall, vertical planter, you can fit dozens of plants in a space no bigger than a single floor tile. The fresh taste of a homegrown strawberry is absolutely incredible. Moving right along, we have a superfood that everyone wants to eat every single day, blueberries. Growing blueberries in pots is not just possible, it is actually often much easier than planting them in the ground. Why? Because blueberries have a very specific demand. They absolutely must have highly acidic soil. If your garden soil is not naturally acidic, trying to change it is a never-ending battle. But in a pot, you have total control. You can create the perfect acidic environment right from the start by using a mix of peat moss and pine bark. Imagine grabbing a handful of fresh, plump blueberries for your morning oatmeal from a beautiful half-barrel planter sitting right on your patio. There is a common misconception that blueberry bushes have to be massive to produce fruit. Today, breeders have developed incredible dwarf varieties that only grow to be about 1 to 2 feet tall. They look like cute little ornamental bushes, but they are absolutely packed with berries. One crucial tip for blueberries is that they produce significantly more fruit if they have a buddy. So, try to plant at least 2 different varieties close to each other so the bees can cross-pollinate them. The stunning white flowers and delicious berries make this a perfect plant. Now, let us dive into something a bit more exotic and incredibly rewarding. The fig tree. Figs have a reputation for growing into massive, sprawling trees in warm Mediterranean climates. So, how on earth do you grow one on a small balcony? Well, here is a fascinating secret about fig trees that works to your absolute advantage. They actually love having their roots restricted. When you put a fig tree in a pot, the roots hit the sides and send a signal to the tree to stop growing huge leaves and branches, and instead put all its energy into producing fruit. It is like a built-in size control mechanism. Picture a gorgeous architectural tree with massive tropical-looking leaves sitting in a large terracotta pot in the corner of your patio. By late summer, it is heavy with soft, sweet, jammy figs. If you have never eaten a fig warm straight from the sun, you are truly missing out on one of life's greatest culinary pleasures. The grocery store figs are picked long before they are ripe so they can survive shipping, which means they never develop their true, honey-like sweetness. In a pot, you wait until the fig is soft and slightly drooping, and then you enjoy pure perfection. In the winter, you can literally just roll the dormant pot into a dark garage. Surely you cannot grow apples in a pot, right? Think again. Apple trees have undergone some incredible botanical advancements, and today you can absolutely grow crisp, juicy apples in a container. The key here is looking for something called a columnar apple tree. These are a marvel of modern gardening. Instead of growing out with wide, sweeping branches, they grow straight up like a pillar or a column. They usually only get about 2 feet wide, but can reach several feet tall, making them the ultimate space savers. Imagine having a sleek modern planter on your balcony with a single elegant vertical tree that is just absolutely covered in clusters of full-sized apples from top to bottom. It looks almost magical, like something out of a fairy tale. Varieties designed specifically for urban dwellers with 0 yard space are easy to find online. The myth that you need an entire orchard to bake an apple pie is completely busted. You do need to remember that most apple trees need a different variety nearby to cross-pollinate, so you will want to get 2 different columnar trees and place them next to each other. They provide gorgeous pink and white blossoms in the spring and a beautiful crisp harvest in the fall. Just give them plenty of sunshine. Let us move on to the stone fruits, specifically peaches and nectarines. There is nothing quite like biting into a peach and having the sweet juice run right down your chin. You might think these require a massive orchard in Georgia, but genetic dwarf peach trees are here to change your life. These are not regular trees grafted onto small roots. They are naturally miniature trees that only grow about 4 to 6 feet tall, but they produce perfectly normal, full-sized, deliciously sweet fruit. Imagine a tiny bushy tree in a pot that is literally smothered in stunning pink blossoms in the early spring. It is so beautiful it rivals any purely decorative plant. Then, fast forward to summer, and that same tiny tree is completely loaded with fuzzy golden red peaches. Because they bloom so early in the year, growing them in a pot is actually a huge advantage. If a late spring frost threatens to kill the delicate flowers, you can just throw a blanket over the pot or pull it into your living room for the night. You simply cannot do that with a tree planted out in the front yard. Just give them a large container, heavy-duty potting soil, and as much sun as you can possibly manage, and you will be harvesting your own peaches in no time at all. If you want a plant that is as tough as nails, beautiful, and gives you incredibly expensive fruit for free, you need to look at the pomegranate. Pomegranates are native to hot, dry regions, which means they are incredibly forgiving if you accidentally forget to water them for a couple of days. They thrive in pots because they actually prefer well-drained soil and do not mind getting a little bit root-bound. You can look for standard varieties for large fruits, or if your space is truly microscopic, seek out the dwarf pomegranate. The dwarf version only grows about 3 feet tall and produces smaller, but still completely edible and delicious miniature pomegranates. Picture this on your sunny windowsill, a dense, bright green bush covered in spectacular, trumpet-shaped, fiery orange and red flowers. Those flowers eventually swell into the iconic leathery red spheres we all know. Pomegranates are famously expensive in the grocery store, so growing your own is like printing money. Plus, cracking open your own homegrown pomegranate and pulling out those sparkling, jewel-like seeds to sprinkle over a salad is incredibly satisfying. Place them in the absolute hottest, sunniest spot you have, and they will reward you with years of healthy fruit. Have you ever dreamed of having your own cherry blossom festival right on your patio? Well, you can, and you get to eat the cherries afterward. For a long time, cherry trees were simply too big for containers, and they required 2 different trees just to get any fruit. That meant you needed a lot of space. But let us smash that old limitation right now. Botanists have developed self-pollinating dwarf sweet cherry trees that are absolutely perfect for large pots. 1 single tree is all you need. Imagine sitting out on your deck in the early summer, reaching over to your beautiful potted tree and picking a handful of dark, rich, almost black, sweet cherries. It is the ultimate luxury. Cherries in pots do need a bit of special attention when it comes to watering. They hate having wet feet, so choosing a pot with massive drainage holes and putting a layer of gravel at the bottom can really help. Also, birds absolutely love cherries just as much as you do. When you grow them in a pot on a balcony or a patio, it is much easier to throw a protective bird net over a 5-foot tree than it is to protect a 30-foot giant in the yard. This means you actually get to eat the harvest instead of just feeding the local wildlife in your neighborhood. Now we are going to talk about a fruit that is almost impossible to find fresh in the grocery store because it is too delicate to ship. I am talking about mulberries. If you mention mulberries to an old-school gardener, they will probably panic. The common myth is that mulberry trees are massive 60-foot-tall monsters that drop messy purple fruit all over your driveway and ruin your cars. While that is true for some wild varieties, it is completely false for the dwarf ever-bearing mulberry. This specific variety is an absolute superstar for container gardening. It acts more like a bush than a tree, and you can easily prune it to stay around 3 to 4 feet tall. But the best part? It lives up to its name. It continuously produces sweet, blackberry-like fruits from spring all the way to the first frost. Imagine having a continuous supply of sweet, dark berries just steps from your kitchen door for months on end. They are incredibly easy to care for, rarely suffer from pests, and grow remarkably fast. You can even grow them indoors near a bright sunny window during the winter, and they might just keep right on fruiting. The flavour is a unique mix of sweet and earthy, perfect for eating fresh or throwing into your morning smoothies. Let us move on to the bramble fruits, the raspberries and blackberries. Traditionally, these plants grow wild and turn into giant, thorny, unmanageable thickets that will snag your clothes and scratch your arms. The idea of putting them on a small balcony sounds like a terrible, painful mistake. But wait, we have to debunk the wild thicket myth. Thanks to modern breeding, we now have compact, thornless varieties specifically designed for patio containers. These plants are completely thornless, so you will not need armour to pick your breakfast. They have a lovely, mounding growth habit, meaning they look like a pretty green bush rather than a messy vine. Imagine a sleek modern pot holding a neat round bush that is absolutely sparkling with bright red or deep purple berries. You do not even need a trellis for these specific dwarf types. They are incredibly cold hardy, so they can survive freezing winters in their pots with just a little bit of insulation. Picking fresh raspberries that are still warm from the afternoon sun without getting a single scratch on your hands is an experience every urban gardener needs to have. Plus, these berries cost a fortune at the store, so you save a lot of money. If you want to add a touch of the tropics and some dramatic flair to your small space, you have to try growing passion fruit. This is not a tree or a bush. It is a vigorous climbing vine. You might be wondering how a large vine fits into a small space. The secret is going vertical. If you have a bare wall, a trellis, or even just the railing of your balcony, a potted passion fruit vine will happily climb right up it, taking up almost zero floor space. The flowers on a passion fruit vine look like alien spacecraft. They are massive, intricate, purple and white masterpieces that will make every single person who visits your home stop and stare. Imagine your dull balcony railing completely transformed into a lush, green wall of exotic flowers and hanging purple fruits. When the fruit gets wrinkly, you cut it open to find that incredibly aromatic, sweet, and tart orange pulp that is completely intoxicating. Many modern varieties are self-pollinating, so you only need one plant in a large pot. They are heavy feeders and drinkers, so you will need to keep the soil moist and give them organic fertilizer regularly. If you live in a cold climate, you will have to cut the vine back and bring the pot indoors for the winter, but it is totally worth it. To round out our list of 12 amazing fruits, we return to the citrus family for something truly unique, the kumquat. Kumquats are the ultimate small space fruit tree because they are naturally quite small and grow beautifully in containers for their entire lives. But the coolest thing about the kumquat is how you eat it. You see, with oranges and lemons, the peel is bitter and the inside is sweet or sour. The kumquat completely reverses this rule. The thin, bright orange rind is incredibly sweet, while the juice inside is mouth-puckeringly tart. You do not peel them. You just pop the entire fruit into your mouth for an explosion of sweet and sour flavour. Picture a beautifully shaped little tree on your patio, literally covered in hundreds of tiny, glowing orange ovals. They hold onto their fruit for a very long time, making them one of the most highly ornamental fruit trees you can possibly own. They look like they are decorated with little orange Christmas ornaments for months. They are slightly more cold hardy than lemons, but still need protection from hard freezes. A kumquat tree in a beautiful ceramic pot is not just a source of food, it is a stunning piece of living decor that will provide you with delicious, bite-sized treats. Now that you know exactly what to grow, let us talk about the crucial mechanics of container gardening, starting with the pots themselves. The biggest mistake beginners make is choosing a pot based entirely on how it looks, while completely ignoring functionality. First and foremost, you absolutely must have drainage holes. If your pot does not let water escape, your fruit tree will drown, the roots will rot, and the plant will die. It is a guaranteed failure. But what about the material? You have terracotta, plastic, ceramic, and fabric. Terracotta is beautiful and breathable, but it dries out very fast and is extremely heavy to move. The absolute best secret weapon for growing fruit trees in small spaces is the fabric grow bag. Imagine a pot made of tough, breathable felt. When the roots reach the edge of a plastic pot, they circle endlessly and choke the plant. But when roots reach the edge of a fabric bag, the air exposure naturally prunes the roots, encouraging a massive, healthy root system in a much smaller space. They are cheap, lightweight, and you can just fold them up when not in use. Always choose a container that is just a few inches larger than the root ball of your tree. You can always pot up later as the tree grows. Let us move on to the dirt, or rather, the lack of it. Here is a massive myth that ruins countless container gardens. You cannot, under any circumstances, just go into your backyard, dig up some dirt with a shovel, and put it in a pot. Garden soil is incredibly heavy. When you put it in a container, it compacts down into a solid brick of mud. Water cannot drain, air cannot reach the roots, and your beautiful fruit tree will suffocate. For pots, you need a high-quality, lightweight potting mix. Think of it as a fluffy sponge. The perfect recipe for container fruit trees is usually a mix of peat moss or cocoa coir to hold moisture, perlite or pumice to create air pockets for drainage, and a healthy dose of rich compost to provide natural nutrients. Imagine digging your hands into a bag of this mix. It feels light, airy, and smells rich and earthy. If you are growing citrus, you might want a mix with even more perlite for extra drainage. If you are growing blueberries, remember that you need an acidic mix designed for plants like azaleas. Investing in the right soil right from the beginning is like building a strong foundation for a house. It makes every other step of the growing process 10 times easier and ensures your success. Watering potted fruit trees is an art form, and it is where most people get nervous. The common thought is that more water equals a happier plant, but overwatering kills far more potted trees than underwatering ever does. In a pot, the roots are trapped. They cannot escape the flood. So how do you know when it is time to water? Throw away your watering schedule. Forget about watering every Tuesday and Friday. Instead, you need to use the highly technical, incredibly advanced finger test. Just stick your index finger about 2 inches deep into the soil. If it feels wet or cool and damp, do not add water. Walk away. If it feels completely dry to the touch, it is time to give the tree a drink. When you do water, imagine a gentle rainstorm. Do not just splash a cup of water on the top. Water deeply and thoroughly until you see the water flowing out of the drainage holes at the bottom of the pot. This ensures that the entire root system gets hydrated and helps flush out any built-up salts from fertilizers. In the dead of summer, when the sun is blazing on your tiny balcony, you might have to water every single day. But in the cooler fall and winter months, you might only water once every couple of weeks. Listen to what the soil tells you. Let us shine a light on sunlight. Fruit trees, almost without exception, are absolute sun worshippers. They use the energy from the sun to create those sugars that make your strawberries, peaches and figs so wonderfully sweet. The golden rule is that they need at least 6 to 8 hours of direct, unfiltered sunlight every single day. But what if you have a tricky balcony with shadows that move constantly? Here is a fantastic trick. Before you buy any plants, take one day over the weekend to map your sunlight. Go out every 2 hours and make a little sketch of where the light hits your space. You will quickly find the sunniest hotspots. Now here is where container gardening becomes incredibly powerful. You are not stuck. If you plant a tree in the ground and it gets too much shade, you have a huge problem. But if your lemon tree is in a pot, you just slide it over a few feet. Imagine putting your large fruit tree pots on heavy-duty rolling plant caddies with wheels. You can literally roll your orchard across the patio to chase the morning sun, or roll it under an awning if a severe summer hailstorm rolls in. By utilizing reflections off light-colored walls, you can maximize the sun even in tight urban alleyways. Because your fruit trees are living in a tiny confined pot, they do not have the luxury of sending their roots deep into the earth to search for nutrients. They rely entirely on you for their food. Every time you water, a tiny bit of nutrition washes out of the bottom of the pot. To keep them producing those massive, juicy fruits, you need a solid feeding strategy. Forget the harsh, blue chemical liquids that give plants a sudden or natural jolt of energy. The secret to long-lasting, healthy container fruit is slow-release organic fertilizer. Imagine giving your plants a steady, healthy diet of slow-cooked meals instead of rushing them with sugary energy drinks. You want to look for organic, granular fertilizers specifically blended for fruit trees or citrus. You simply sprinkle a handful around the top of the soil at the beginning of spring, and every time you water, it slowly breaks down and feeds the roots gently for months. To give them an extra boost while they are actively forming fruit, you can occasionally use a liquid organic feed, like a liquid kelp or fish emulsion. Yes, it smells a little bit like the ocean for an afternoon, but the results are staggering. Well-fed trees are stronger and produce much sweeter fruits. Pruning is the word that strikes absolute terror into the hearts of beginner gardeners. They are terrified they are going to cut the wrong branch and kill the whole tree. But when you are growing fruit trees in small spaces, pruning is not just a good idea, it is absolutely essential. It is how you keep a tree perfectly sized for your balcony. You have to be the boss of the tree. The secret here is summer pruning. Most people prune in the winter when the tree is asleep to encourage vigorous growth in the spring. But if you want to keep your tree small and compact, you prune in the late summer. By snipping off the energetic new growth in the summer, you take away the tree's solar panels right when it wants to grow big, which significantly slows down its size expansion. Imagine looking at your potted apple tree. You want it to look like a beautiful wine glass, open in the centre, so sunlight and air can reach all the fruits. Just grab your clean sharp bypass pruners and snip away any branches that are crossing and rubbing together. It is like giving your tree a nice neat haircut. Pruning actually stimulates the tree to produce more fruiting buds for the next year, meaning a smaller tree can give you a larger harvest. Now we have to talk about the birds and the bees, literally. For a flower to turn into a piece of fruit, it needs to be pollinated. Out in nature, the wind and thousands of buzzing bees do this job for free. But if your fruit tree is sitting on a high-rise apartment balcony or enclosed in a sunroom, the local bees might not be able to find it. Do not panic, you will not lose your harvest. You just have to become the bee yourself. This is called hand pollination, and it is actually incredibly easy and quite relaxing. All you need is a small, soft, clean paintbrush, or even just a simple cotton swab. Imagine sitting next to your blooming peach tree on a quiet morning. You gently take the paintbrush and tickle the centre of one flower, picking up the yellow dust, which is the pollen. Then you simply brush that dust onto the centre of the next flower and repeat the process around the tree. You are manually transferring the pollen just like a bee's fuzzy legs would. If you have two different trees, you bounce back and forth between them. It only takes a few minutes, it is surprisingly meditative, and it guarantees that almost every single flower will swell up into a delicious piece of fruit, even 20 stories up. Finally, let us discuss how to protect your precious potted orchard when the freezing winter winds arrive. This is the ultimate hurdle. A tree planted in the ground has its roots insulated by thousands of pounds of surrounding earth. A tree in a pot has its roots exposed to the freezing air on all sides. If the root ball freezes solid, the tree will die, but you can easily outsmart winter. If you are growing tropicals like citrus or passion fruit, you simply move them indoors to a bright, sunny room before the first frost hits. They become your houseplants for the winter. But for trees that actually need cold weather to produce fruit like apples, peaches and cherries, you leave them outside, but you have to bundle them up. Imagine putting a heavy winter coat on your pots. You can wrap the containers in thick layers of bubble wrap or old heavy blankets and push them tightly together up against the warmest wall of your house. If you have an unheated garage, that is the perfect winter resort. Once the trees drop their leaves and go completely dormant, they do not need sunlight. You just wheel the pots into the dark garage, give them a tiny sip of water once a month, and wait for the glorious return of spring to bring them outside. And there you have it, the ultimate twist to urban living. You do not need acres of land, a tractor, or a trust fund to build your own personal orchard. You hold the power to grow an endless supply of healthy, organic food right in the palms of your hands, using nothing more than a few well-chosen pots on a sunny balcony. By mastering these 12 amazing fruit trees and applying the simple secrets of container gardening, you are not just saving money at the grocery store, you are taking back control of what you eat. You're experiencing the incredible, unmatched flavour of a strawberry or a peach warmed by the afternoon sun, picked mere seconds before you eat it. We have covered the best dwarf varieties, the perfect soil mix, watering strategies, and even how to hand pollinate. Now it is entirely up to you to start planting. Thank you so much for watching and growing with us today. If you found this video helpful and want to learn more about taking control of your own food supply, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a huge thumbs up, and leave a comment below. I want to know, which of these 12 amazing fruit trees are you going to plant first on your balcony or patio?